right, good morning. Another interesting case for us today. So this is the case of Jodie Oviedo. She had a medical crisis involving complications during childbirth. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all the details going in because they don't matter that much. What does matter is the background that this person had before their coma, before going into a medically induced coma. Now, Jodie had a very deep, very rich religious orientation or history going back to when she was a very young child. Again, skipping over a lot of the details here because it's all in the article, but suffice it to say that she was just immersed or completely drenched in all of this religious iconography. So imagery about God and thrones and golden trumpets and all kinds of stuff like that. All right, so that's the condition of what her brain set is. Her brain is like when going into this coma. And also she was in the hospital for about 3 days going through childbirth when there were complications, and she had some internal bleeding, and she eventually suffered some respiratory collapse, and they had to put her into a medically induced coma in order to save her life. So you have this mix of all of this deep religious background stuff. 3 days in the hospital, her medical condition deteriorates, her fear level escalates, and then she goes into the coma. So that's the setup, okay? Now, if you've been watching me and you've seen me tear down these fear coma experiences, so people who describe scenes of hell, that all comes from a living brain. That's not from a near-death experience. It's all from the coma. So your brain generates this imagery for you in trying to motivate you to get you to survive whatever situation that you're in. Now, in the case of Jodie, and this one's really interesting because it causes me now to expand this framework. The question is this: can the living brain in a coma produce the hell, fire, demons, lava, collapsing buildings, having to escape something, or being trapped? These are all of the fear things that are generated in a fear coma experience. And this is what I've been looking at up to this point. However, in this case, breaking down, and she did 5 different podcasts. So I was able to take the transcripts of all of those podcasts, then break down every element, and then compare all 5 transcripts so that you can see where it's consistent and where there's one thing that she mentioned over here but didn't include over there. In other words, to get all the details from her own voice. And then comparing everything that she said with all 5 podcasts, she also had a fear coma experience that included angels that were 10 feet tall in white robes with golden swords that were actively fighting the demons that were the hell part side of it, or the scary side of it. The God angel imagery was there at her bedside having a battle. Okay, there was a traveling nurse with a name tag of Gabriel, the angel, who showed up with a magical golden toolkit or cosmic surgery or something. But again, she's a nurse, okay? So her brain creates all this imagery. So the thing is this, that the fear coma experience, or what I've been calling a fear coma experience, is your brain reacting to the fact that it's in a coma and it's trying to get you to survive. But in this particular case, it creates both sides. It creates the scary part and it creates the religious iconography, and they're all in this jumble. Now, when you look at her account very carefully, and you look in, when I was looking at it and looking at it for indicators of an actual, true, authentic near-death experience, there aren't any. There are some things that, and this is what makes it confusing. If you're looking at this and comparing it to the Grayson NDE scale to try to score it, there's several things where she uses the words, but then they're out of context for a normal NDE. So, for example, tunnel. Okay, so in a normal NDE, there's frequently, there's the formation of a tunnel with a white light, and you go through that. In her case, it's a tunnel that leads to the portal to the entrance of hell, and she is taken to the gate, right up to the gates of hell, by this traveling nurse, golden Gabriel person, angel, who takes her down the tunnel to the gates of hell. So it's tunnel, but it's not the tunnel in the NDE section. Doesn't fit everything that you would expect from a normal NDE. And there's lots of those. There's several. So if you just look at it for keywords, did she mention this? Well, yes, she did. But then when you put it in the context of, and I don't want to say thousands, and I don't want to say hundreds of thousands, I want to say millions of near-death experience accounts that are actual, true, authentic near-death experiences, and they're all basically can fall into the same framework. So this is an extreme outlier. So she mentions the word, but it's not in context of a normal, authentic NDE. So that's what you find here. So when you get done with this, it's not a welded NDE. It's not a fear coma experience mixed with an NDE. This is pure fear coma experience. All of this imagery is created by her brain. All of it. She didn't die. She didn't go to hell. But it's all of the things that her brain, this is what she's preloaded with, the ammunition that her brain is preloaded with. She was in a coma for, I think, about 9 days. And then here's the other thing that happens too when you're listening to her accounts, that her memories are overlapping with what she actually remembers from the experience, and then what she's being told by medical and nursing staff when they're reading her records, and then what she's also being told by family and friends that were there in the room that have been with her since. So she's trying, and you can hear this when she's giving these interviews. You can see her going, well, this is what I remember, but then this is what I was told by the nurse, and then this is what I was told by this person. So then she's trying to parse all that and put it all together, rather than just saying, this is what I saw, or this is what I experienced. She's trying to create something out of it. Now, the other thing too is that for this account, the religious community on YouTube who make these kinds of videos, they love this stuff because they have a person who is a very religious person, who's a believer, who can say that she was in this coma, and they told her that she coded several times. The fact that, and this is something that I clarify in the article as well, just the fact that you die and you pass away and are resuscitated does not mean that you automatically are going to have a near-death experience. That's not the way it works. It's a smaller percentage, maybe 15, 20%. Of the people that actually do have that situation where they die, flatline, they are resuscitated, and then they come back. Most of the time, you don't have an NDE. So anyway, so the clinical flatline death is important. It's an element there, but what really matters is what was the experience like for the person, and everything that she tells about and that she talks about doesn't fit for a real, true, authentic NDE. This is all fear coma experience stuff. It's all generated by her brain. Anyway, that's what I've got today. The article, Schwank, is on the website, winnernde.com. I'll put a link over wherever it is in the description somewhere, so you can go read it. It's interesting. And this is the first one that really expands the fear coma experience theory or hypothesis that I'm putting together to include these kinds of things. So it doesn't have to be all the time 100% negativity, fear, all of that. Your brain, if it's loaded with that religious background stuff, can also rely on that. It's part of the library that your brain has access to and says, hey man, I can throw the traveling nurse Gabriel with a golden suitcase of medical supplies to help you out on your travels to get back from the coma. Anyway, so it's cool, it's interesting stuff. It's really interesting. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much and have an amazing day. Bye now.